Pillars Community Health is a nonprofit provider of health and social services turning 100 years old in 2021. We provide medical and dental services, mental health and substance use disorder services, and domestic and sexual violence services regardless of your insurance or income. Amid the COVID-19 pandemic, we continue to offer all of our services, many of them virtually. That includes prevention education presentations and other virtual outreach from our other lines of service. We are also offering COVID-19 testing and services. All sexual assault and domestic violence services are provided at no cost and are available in English, Spanish, and Arabic. Please take note of our 24-hour confidential sexual assault hotline, available at 708-482-9600. Our services include crisis intervention, information and referral services, and therapy services as needed. We offer criminal justice, civil, and medical advocacy. This includes assistance filling out police reports, court accompaniment, acting as a liaison between the criminal justice system and survivor, assistance with obtaining civil no-contact orders and stalking orders, and support for survivors seeking medical care and evidence collection after a sexual assault. For clients ages 3 and up, we offer individual group counseling services by telehealth, telephone, and in person. The goal of ending sexual violence cannot be reached through crisis intervention alone. So we also offer a suite of outreach and prevention education offerings. This includes community outreach to change entrenched societal attitudes that tolerate and contribute to sexual violence. The Pillars Community Health Sexual Assault Program uses the Center for Disease Control model for violence prevention. We use the strategies of community mobilization, coalition building, social norms change, prevention education, and social justice activism. Each year, the Sexual Assault Program holds signature awareness events to honor survivors of sexual violence. These include Survivor Candlelight Visual and Speak Out, the Pillars Community Health Clothesline Project, a visual display of artwork created by survivors seen at our agency, participation in the virtual Survivor Love Letter campaign, agency-wide Denim Day recognition event, Ask for Angela patron safety and date rape drug awareness campaign. ARC prevention education programming addresses all forms of sexual assault and sexual abuse and healthy relationships with children, adolescents, young adults from preschool through college. Presentation topics include sexual abuse, Erins Law, consent law, child and teen lures, Do So, our story time program for preschool children, bullying prevention, bystander intervention, sexual harassment, healthy relationships, and coaching boys to men. Our culturally competent outreach services include support and empowerment groups and institutional advocacy with institution stakeholders to break down barriers for survivors. And of course, as you're receiving today, we offer professional training to educators, administrators, medical, law enforcement, social service, civic, and faith-based organizations. Thank you for taking the time to learn more about sexual abuse prevention and how you can help your school community. For more information about our services or to speak with one of our staff about the topics in this video, call us at 708-PILLARS. That's 708-745-5277. Or visit our website at pillarscommunityhealth.org.
Child sexual abuse can be brought to the attention of trusted adults through disclosures. It is important to take disclosures seriously, reassure the child that you believe them and that the abuse was not their fault. Young children may disclose in pieces, not chronologically. They may describe it to you as it makes sense to them, due to their lack of understanding timelines. Adolescents may disclose as they test their independence or as they become aware that abuse is wrong. Of course, not all children will be ready or prepared to disclose. So it is crucial that you understand the indicators of sexual abuse so that you may be prepared to stop the harm, even if a child does not disclose. You may notice changes in the child's behavior or find something physically suspicious. Warning signs at all age groups include explicit sexual knowledge beyond the child's developmental stage, pain, itching, or bleeding in genital areas, sexual fixation in language or drawings, sudden or extreme mood swings, nightmares, trouble sleeping or fear of the dark, references to a new friend who is older in age, and/or unexplained avoidance of certain people, places, or activities. In younger children, you may expect imitation of sexual acts with toys or other objects, behavior of a much younger child, like bedwetting or thumb sucking, refusal to take off clothes at appropriate times, or the presence of STIs. As children get older, you may notice unhealthy eating patterns or unusual weight gain or weight loss, anxiety or depression, changes in self-care or paying less attention to hygiene, self-harming behaviors or suicidal thoughts, alcohol or drug use, running away, STIs or pregnancy, high-risk sexual behavior, or suddenly having money or nice things. Should you notice any of these or other suspicious or alarming behaviors, it is best to take action, approach the child, and offer your support. You can anticipate certain reactions from children who have experienced sexual abuse. Victims are pressured with threats and are told repeatedly that they will not be believed if they tell. This is why it is so important to validate a child when they disclose. Often they are sworn to secrecy and may feel a responsibility to maintain the present state of affairs. Children are not able to protect themselves and are often socialized to be subordinate. This can lead to feelings of helplessness. When feeling hopeless, children then learn to survive the situation by accommodating to the reality of the continued abuse. After disclosing, children may feel shame, guilt, or an obligation to restore family harmony. Due to the reaction from others, children may recant to make things right. Later in this video, we will talk about how to handle disclosures or a lack thereof. The government definition of sex trafficking is the recruitment, harboring, transportation, provision, obtaining, patronizing, or soliciting of a person for the purposes of a commercial sex act, in which the commercial sex act is induced by force, fraud, or coercion, or in which the person induced to perform such an act has not attained 18 years of age. A simpler definition of sex trafficking is a modern form of slavery, as it involves the use of force and fraud to obtain commercial sex acts of an adult or minor. It is important to note that the act of force, fraud, and coercion do not need to be present to identify it as child sex trafficking. Here are a few child sex trafficking statistics. According to the National Criminal Justice Reference Service, 50,000 people are trafficked into the United States each year. In 2018, 51% of those were sex trafficking cases involving children. In the Chicago area, 16,000 to 24,000 local women and girls are sex trafficked on any given day. According to DoSomething.org, which is a website of different campaigns for young people to take action, the average age a teen enters the sex trade in the United States is 12 to 14 years old, and in 2016, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children estimated that 1 in 6 runaways are likely sex trafficking victims. Television, movies, and the media show sex trafficking as something very dramatic and different from what real sex trafficking can look like. Trafficking happens everywhere, no matter the country, state, or city. Sex trafficking often happens in places of business, such as hotels, motels, massage parlors, truck stops, and more. Television and movies often show traffickers as being strangers. Most victims are trafficked by someone they know, whether it is a friend, boyfriend, neighbor, or parent. There are a few signs and symptoms that are very specific in identifying child sex trafficking. Signs of physical abuse, such as burn marks, bruises, or cuts. Unexplained absences from school. Less appropriately dressed than before. Sexualized behavior. Overly tired or falls asleep in class. Withdrawn, depressed, or distracted. Brags about making or having lots of money. Displays expensive clothes, accessories, or shoes. New tattoos or brandings, commonly on the neck or breast, of a pimp's name, gang symbols, dollar signs, or barcodes. An older friend who they call daddy. Disjointed family connections, running away, living with friends, or experiencing homelessness. If you suspect a child is being trafficked, please call the National Human Trafficking Hotline at 1-888-373-7888. You can also contact the local police department and use the non-emergency number to report the claim. You may also call the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children at 1-800-THE-LOST. We at Pillars Community Health also provide support services for adults and children victims of sex trafficking.
Erins Law is named after child sexual abuse survivor and Illinois resident Erin Morin. Erin advocated for and got passed a law that mandates public schools annually provide child sexual abuse prevention education to children. Erin's Law went into effect on January 24, 2013. Pillars Community Health offers comprehensive programming to area schools to meet the Erins Law mandate. Using evidence-based curriculum, Pillars Community Health assists schools by providing developmentally appropriate curriculum to students from pre-K to grade 12. We teach children personal body safety, how to speak up and tell, who to tell, and how to understand the difference between safe and unsafe touch. Our goal is to empower children and equip them with the information and skills they need to protect themselves from child sexual abuse. Erins Law also mandates schools provide annual trainings for educators and school staff on child sexual abuse. These trainings cover information on sexual abuse, the facts, figures, and prevalence, indicators of sexual abuse, and how to properly handle when a child discloses abuse are explained. Parent trainings are also a part of Erins Law. Pillars Community Health facilitates trainings for parents and caregivers in conjunction with partnering schools, informing them on what child sexual abuse is, statistics, indicators, and instructions on reacting responsibly to child sexual abuse. We also provide on-site crisis intervention to schools and parents in the event a child does disclose. We are there to inform, support, and help communities, children, and families heal.
My name is Erin Morin, and when I was a young child, I was sexually abused. And it was done by people I knew and trusted. I was 6 years old, but I could tell you the details of what happened over 20 years ago as if it happened yesterday. The closet doors open, the toys on the floor, and one thing I'll never forget, he looked at me and said, "This is our little secret. If you tell anybody, no one will believe you." When I was 11 years old, it happened again, this time by a trusted family member. And I went home and began writing about it in my childhood diary. And for 2.5 years, I filled that diary, not letting anybody know the horrors I was enduring. This secret is killing me, and I have to tell someone. What if he is right and no one believes me? How do I make him stop? If you are out there, God, please help me. And it wasn't until my little sister came to me and said the words I will never forget. Brian's gross. I remember looking at her and saying, he's doing it to you too? The very next day we told our parents. I thought because the abuse ended, that life was going to get so much easier. But the nightmares and flashbacks began to consume me, haunt me, and I just remember being so angry. And I eventually had this turning point of confronting one of my abusers in a 5-page letter. It was angry and hate-felt. Never in a million years would have thought I would get a response back. But 5 days later, I got one.
I'm sorry for what I did to you a long time ago. My actions weren't thought out. I was confused and disoriented. I wish I had never hurt you the way that I did. I am sorry for the past, and I hope you can forgive me. But if you cannot, I understand. I am sorry.
But then I began to realize that I was allowing that anger, that hatred, that bitterness to control my life. And that's when I made that decision. I said, I'm going to forgive him and do something positive with this. I want to go out there and help other people who carry the same shame, the same secrets that I did, and allow them to find their voice. That's why I created Erins Law, requiring sexual abuse prevention education in our public schools, teaching kids the difference between safe touch, unsafe touch, safe secrets, unsafe secrets. Erins Law has been passed now in 26 states and pending in 24. I've made it my life mission to get Erins Law passed in every single state. I don't want another generation, another century of children to not be educated on this very important issue. We teach children stranger danger, tornado drills, bus drills, fire drills, say no to drugs, but we teach nothing on sexual abuse. As a society, we sweep it under the rug, look the other way, and think it's not going to happen to us. Parents, you need to know how to talk to your kids about sexual abuse, the warning signs to look for, and the proper way to handle it if your child does disclose, no matter how uncomfortable it might be. And kids, if this has ever happened to you, this is not your fault. You're not to blame, and you need to tell somebody. There are safe places for you to go. Go to tlc.com/bethevoice to educate yourself on sexual abuse, to get the support you need and help pass Erins Law in every state. The National Sexual Assault Hotline provides free, safe, and confidential help 24/7 by phone at 800-656-HOPE or online at rain.org.
When it comes to sexual abuse, the issue of most importance is consent. In Illinois, consent is defined as a freely given agreement to the act of sexual penetration or sexual activity. Silence is not consent. A shrug of one's shoulders is not consent. In addition to Erins Law, which also mandates sexual abuse prevention education in our public schools, Illinois passed Public Act 98-0441, which took effect on January 1st, 2020, mandating schools address consent in sexual education classes to students in grades 6 through 12. The new law amends Illinois' sex education curriculum for middle school and high school students by including an age-appropriate discussion on consent. Students will learn what it means to give sexual consent or withdraw it when they come of age. The goal is giving them the ability to clearly understand the serious implications of consent with respect to body rights and the law. In Illinois, the age of consent for sexual activity is 17 years. However, if the initiator is 17 or older and holds a position of trust, authority, or supervision in relation to the victim, then the age of consent is 18 years. This is part of the consent law curriculum Pillars Community Health gives to adolescents. People who engage in sexual activity with children under the age of 18 are committing statutory rape, which is considered sexual abuse or sexual assault. A child cannot consent to sexual activity. Any sexual activity with a child is a crime. The concept of consent will now be addressed in school as a result of Illinois law. Adolescents will learn that people who engage in sexual contact with people of any age without their consent are committing the crime of sexual assault. Regardless of age, a person with developmental disabilities or a person experiencing any mental incapacity, including drinking or drug use, cannot give consent. If a victim becomes unconscious, they are unable to give consent. If a person submits to sexual activity because of use of force or threat of force, they are not giving consent. If a person consented to past sexual activity, it does not constitute consent to future sexual activity. It doesn't matter what a person is wearing or not wearing, clothing or little to no clothing shall not constitute consent. A person who initially consents to sexual activity and then changes their mind during the sexual activity is not giving consent at that point. Pillars Community Health is here to partner with educators and administrators to help meet the consent law mandate.
In these unprecedented times, receiving a disclosure can be difficult to navigate. Children are spending much more time at home and may find it difficult to express that they need help. While we may face different challenges when a child discloses, it is important to always remember that you are that child's opportunity for help and support. Here are helpful ways to handle a disclosure from a child in need. First, say, "I believe you." Most often, the abuser uses the fear of disbelief to silence the child. Coming forward to disclose sexual abuse is very scary for children. It means that the child has made the choice to break their silence, despite having been encouraged and conditioned to keep the abuse secret. Be aware. In these times, receiving a disclosure is most likely to occur virtually. Children may find it difficult to create a safe, quiet, and confidential environment. The child may have concerns such as talking to someone at home or may possibly live with their abuser. Being aware of nonverbal and verbal cues are essential in making sure that the child is safe to ask for help. If you find that a child moves around their home frequently, becomes silent when others are near, or appears avoidant, use other ways to communicate with the child nonverbally. If your communication platform allows, ask the child to use the chat to gather information about the child's immediate safety. Try to use closed-ended questions to assess if the child is living in an environment that the abuse can continue. For example, are you safe at home? Or does the person that hurt you live with you? These questions are important when needing to get other agencies involved. If the child abruptly ends communication, try to establish communication with the child again, but do so in a way that does not make the child feel unsafe or afraid. Safeguarding the child is the priority. This includes emotionally and mentally. A child that feels that they may not be safe if someone in the home hears them may shut down or deter from the disclosure. It is important that everything is done to get enough information to intervene to keep the abuse from continuing. However, follow the child's lead. If they express a lack of safety, please do not push the child to give more information. Set up a safe and confidential time to follow up with the child and to provide additional support. Provide encouragement. Take special recognition of how brave the child is for disclosing. Tell the child how proud you are of them for coming forward and asking for help. This is a time to celebrate the child's courage and strength. This also helps to empower them. Reinforce how telling means they know what the abuser did was wrong and they spoke out against it. Remind them that this is not their fault, that what was done to them was wrong and they did not cause the abuse. Provide reassurance. Let the child know that you will do everything you can to keep them safe. Try to answer questions that the child may have about what is next. Be honest and as transparent as you can, but also be sure not to make any promises. Knowing what happens next is a great concern for children who disclose. They may have specific questions about the process of reporting or what will happen when their parents hear about the abuse. Try to provide information at an age-appropriate level about the next steps that will be taken to assure the child's safety. Report the abuse. After gathering information, it is important to report the abuse to the necessary agencies. You are a mandated reporter. This means that you hold a legal obligation to report to DCFS any suspicions of child endangerment. To be cautious, it is encouraged that any signs of abuse, no matter what the circumstances, is reported, even if the child does not disclose. Allow the agency to inform you if they deem that the disclosure should be investigated further. You must contact DCFS if the abuse involves a parent or their romantic partner, an immediate relative or someone living in their home, a caretaker such as a babysitter or daycare worker, or any person responsible for the child's welfare such as a healthcare provider, educator, coach, or youth program volunteer. This is a must and is not negotiable. After any disclosure or upon suspicion of abuse, contact the Illinois Department of Children and Family Services at 1-800-25-ABUSE. That's 1-800-252-2873. Failure to report abuse could result in legal ramifications. Please care enough to call.